I think most of us are exhausted. And that's not even just because we always have something to do, but because we're always online. Whether it is for our work or during our free time, we are always connected to the internet. So we're always looking for something. We are always scrolling. We're always comparing our lives to someone else. And somewhere along the line, we forgot just how good it feels to actually do something, to actually create something with your own hands. So, this space, this channel is my invitation to you to slow down, stop scrolling, create something, and remember that we don't always have to consume something to actually feel fulfillment. Sometimes we just need to create something. Hello there, welcome to my channel. I'm so excited that you're here. If we haven't met before, my name is Emanuele, but my friends called me Manu or Emma for short. If we have met before, thank you very much for clicking on this video. As you can see, this is my first YouTube video ever, and I'm really excited that you took some time of your day to actually hang out with me a little bit. And as you can see from the title and the name of this channel will all be about my creative studio, where I work on my different creative hobbies, my different projects. And I thought it could be really fun to bring you along with me in this first project to redecorate the studio. While we're working on this redecoration, I thought we could temporarily film the videos here while we're having this sort of one-to-one conversation. And then when the studio is finalized, we can move our conversations over there. And yeah, so that's more or less what this first video will be about. I thought we could use this opportunity to just get to know each other a little bit. I will talk a little bit about how the studio idea even came to be, give you a little introduction of my creative hobbies. When did I start? What do I do? What can you expect to see in this YouTube channel? So I'm really excited that you decided to watch this video today and yeah, follow my journey with this first project. All right, so my hobby history, how does that look? So I've always been really creative. I've always been involved with creative hobbies in one way or another. But I think out of everything that I've been hobbying throughout my life, I think the one that stuck the most is sewing. And I've been doing sewing since I'm 12 years old, when I started learning how to sew in school. But that wasn't really the first time that I was working with fabrics and textiles as a hobby. When I was around, I think 5 to 6 years old, I was introduced to cross stitching by some neighbors of my grandmother, and I was really all in with that for a while, and then I kind of got out of it until I picked up sewing in school at age 12. And I mean, it was like finding out my life's calling, you know, a day where I could spend the entire day in the basement with my sewing machine working on a creative project was like the definition of a happy day to me. But then comes around, you know, university age, and I had to move away from home to go study. And during that time, I kind of stopped sewing for a bit, simply because there was never enough space in the places I was living to actually have a little creative corner, a sewing setup where I could always go back to my projects. So while I was studying for quite a few years, my sewing machine was just collecting dust in the basement, and I would pick it up every now and then for a project here and there. But if you sew, you know how messy it is. And if you're not working on a project or a piece of clothing that you will be able to start and finish on the same day, if it's a bigger project that you will need several days to go back to, it's quite a hassle to, leave that mess over there, especially if you're living in a small space. So it was always this dilemma between, do I work on this sewing project that will take several days and the place will be a mess during this day? Or do I do the project and then just clean all that up every day by the end of the day and then next day do the same mess again? It was just not ideal. But that's until 4 years ago when I moved into this house and I finally saw the opportunity to have a little sewing set up, a little creative space on the side where I could actually work on my creative projects and my sewing projects. And yeah, that's more or less the story of how the idea to start the studio started. But it hasn't been an easy ride. It was quite the up and down with setting up the studio. So if you see me looking a little bit to the side, it's because I'm trying to look at some footage to describe the space for you. So that's what I'm doing. So when we first moved into this house, there was a little wooden shed standing outside in the garden. And the previous owners of the house were actually so kind to offer if we wanted them to get rid of the shed. But I saw some potential in the shed, and we told them, no, it's fine. I would like to keep the shed. So that's what we did. And let me just find some pictures of how the shed looked like. Here you go. So as you can see, there was a lot of colors, there was a lot going on, and that's because the former owners of the house, the wife was a florist and she worked from home. So she actually had set up the shed as a florist workshop. That's why there's all these trees painted and all these colors. But when I looked at the space, I could not handle how claustrophobic it felt. I think the black ceiling really did something to the space, making it so dark and feeling like a little bit smaller than it actually is. So I knew I had to get rid of this black ceiling in the very least that. But so yeah, so I just had to start working on it. And first I started by ripping off all the old wallpapers. Turns out the walls were quite dark behind that, so I knew that painting them white directly would be a little bit of a challenge. So I started by, ripping all the wallpapers and installing a new cheap base wallpaper, so to say. But it was a little bit transparent, and I could see that, okay, to get that, finished painted wall effect, I would have to paint over the wallpaper as well. And I did that on all the walls, also on the ceiling, you can see here. And even just doing that, you can see how the space really opened up. And eventually I managed to start filling up the space with this table here that I made using a kitchen top that we removed from the house, and then installing some legs that we found in a store. And slowly other things started moving in here. So I had this old bookshelf from IKEA that I had for forever, so I brought that in here. I found also this dress form on Facebook Marketplace, not that far away from where I live. So I got that. I got this chair as well. And then eventually these two pegboards from IKEA. And Oh my God, I love the space. Like, I love absolutely everything about it, how it looked, how it felt. The view is so amazing, so idyllic, especially in the summer. Sitting there with the door open and looking at the field was just so peaceful. But that peace was shortly lived, if I can say so, because one, I had a wasp infestation the first summer of redecorating the space, and it was actually really uncomfortable because I tried being in there in the shed while while the nest was outside, and it was just really uncomfortable because I could hear the wasps flying inside the walls of the shed, and my skin would just crawl. I could not do that. um, we got someone to come and fix the wasp nest, so they were gone. But then comes winter, and I realized it was just not comfortable to be in the shed during the winter for that long. It felt really humid after a couple of hours, so I also started worrying about my sewing machine, if that could maybe lead to any rusting. So it was not ideal. So even though after all my effort, all my work, the place looked beautiful, I realized that's just not going to cut it. The studio cannot stay out here. But where could it be? Well, in the first floor of the house where we are now, we had this space next to our bedroom here that we didn't really know how to use. So when we moved in here, we were coming from an apartment. So we really upgraded to a bigger living space when we moved in here. And as soon as we moved in, there was basically nothing we could have in the space. So what you can see here is a couch we bought on a secondhand store, because otherwise it was just this big empty space that we had no idea what to do with it. And as you can see, there are these sloped walls on the first floor, and that really makes things difficult when you're thinking about decorating the space, finding furniture. It really limits what you can do because you need to work with those sloped walls. And I think that's also part of why it was so difficult for us to think of what to do with this space. So right off the bat, we kind of just as an easy fix, we got this couch set, and we turned the space into part jungle room with all the house plants, part guest room if we had any friends staying over for a long weekend. And but yeah, the whole place, I still felt like it wasn't really used to its full potential. But we didn't know what else better to do with it. So right off the bat, what we did was we decided to clean it all, not clean, but paint it all white. As you can see, the original walls were green, and I wasn't quite happy with that tone of green, so we just decided, okay, let's paint the whole space white, so we have a blank canvas that I can look with fresh eyes and imagine what the space could be, what we could do with the walls. So that's what I did. I painted the walls white. We turned it into this little cozy jungle room, and it was really cozy. It really was, but we just didn't spend enough time here. And it's quite a shame as well, because we have this big balcony where there is a lot of natural light coming in. So it was just a shame that we were not here. It was cozy, but we were not using the space. At most, we would use it sometimes as a little yoga room. We would have some music play and maybe do some yoga, do some light stretching, kind of this offline room, so to say, where we could just listen to music and enjoy a cup of tea. But it wasn't really optimal, I think. We weren't using the space well enough. So right now, this is what the studio is looking like. I already brought some of the things back from the shed. You will see it here in a second. And one thing that I actually thought could be really nice was to install a curtain on the sloped wall. As you can see, here are the things I already brought. There are some sewing machines, my dress form, mirror, some things that were all in the shed. And like I said, we have this really nice balcony where there's a lot of daylight coming in. It's beautiful to see all the seasons changing from here. And every now and then we have some cute visitors from the neighbors. We have some cows that are on the field next door here. And look at them. They're just so cute. I love watching them. But I'm not too happy with the storage situation. And that's where the idea for redecorating the space actually comes from. Because with the sloped walls, it's always been really difficult to think about cabinets or storage space. What could we fit in here that doesn't go against the walls? And another thing I'm not too happy about is actually the desk setup, how it's facing the wall. I think it's such a shame when we have such big windows that we can look outside either from the balcony or actually the smaller window there. So I wanted to find a solution for that. Also because I am running out of storage. As you can see, I only have this one little shelf there with the sewing machines, and that's just not enough space to keep all my hobbies, all my materials. I have a lot of things that are also in the living room right now, taking some space from the cabinet down there. I have my 3D printer in the office, and ideally I would like to have them all in the same creative space. But yeah, storage is the big problem we have to fix first. And so I decided to look at my favorite place when I'm needing storage, and that's IKEA. On the IKEA website, I found this metal shelves that are pretty multi-purpose, I would say. You can use it for anything. And what I like about it specifically is the height. It fits just perfectly with where the sloped wall starts. And I also like that it is open and exposed. You don't have doors. I actually went back and forth quite a few times thinking about, do I want the materials to all be exposed or do I want them to be closed? And I ended up choosing to go with open shelves because I think this way I can actually see all the material I have. While if I have them behind the closed door, I'm less likely to think about using the things I already have. I'm more likely to forget the materials I already have, and then I end up spending money on new things that I didn't need because I actually already had. So I thought, also having the curtain set up that I can close if at any point, let's say, all the materials in the exposed shelf start looking a little busy and messy to my eyes and I don't want to see them, I can always close the curtain and they're out of sight. Everything looks organized. So yeah, but the shelves were pretty easy to set up. I think I managed to set them both up in less than 20 minutes. All right, so this is the new studio space with the two metal shelves. I really love how it turned out. I think the two metal shelves fit perfectly to the wall. As you can see, the height goes almost to the very top of the sloped, or where the sloped wall starts. So I think height-wise it was perfect. And as you can see, I already brought everything in here, all the different hobby materials and machines, so everything is already here. And if we go a little closer, you can see here we have my 3D printer and the extra materials I have. So mostly I'm working with PLA filament, but here I also have some flex filament, so it's a little bit more stretchy. You can see it's not as stiff as a normal PLA. Under the 3D printer I have my Singer sewing machine, and next to it you see my Bernina overlock machine that I've had for forever. Actually, I bought this Bernina machine, the overlock, when my school was changing all the sewing machines we had, and we were offered to buy them at a cheaper price. So this machine I've had with me since I'm 12, but the machine itself exists all the way back to the, I think, late 80s, early 90s. So it's a good one, and it's been working for me for all these years. On the bottom here, you can see I have some materials. I have some textiles. I have some leftover textiles from the curtains I bought for the living room and my bedroom. So I've been planning to work with them to create maybe some accessories, maybe some pillowcases, I don't know, but I think we will find out together. On the other side here, I have a printer, and here you can see is all my lino printing patterns that I already have. You can see this one was something I made to create a lamp. This one you can actually see right here. This is the block I used to print that one. But apart from those two you see over there, everything else here was lino printed using these linoleum blocks. What else do we have? So here we have 3 different boxes that are trying to sort of organize the different materials by what they are for. So in the first one I have quite a lot of things for jewelry making. I can show a little bit more what's in there in a bit. But on the one under it, it's where I have a lot of candle making materials. So we'll see some decorated candles there. I also have a lot of sticks and wicks here, you can see, for making new candles. And out of all the hobbies I've ever tried in my life, I must say, candle making is the one that stuck the least. I was really excited to try it out, but as soon as I started, I realized, okay, that's maybe not the hobby for me. It's a little too messy, and I think I've done it maybe for 1 winter and never picked it up again. So maybe, let's see if I can pick it up again now that it's here and I can see the material is right there. In this other box here, it's quite mixed. There's a lot of different things together, a lot of random materials I've used from previous projects. There is another toolkit here that I've never tried yet, but was a gift from a friend. So I'm thinking it works somewhat similar to lino printing, but in this case it's a gel print. So I'm excited to try it out and see how that works. Then down here I have some I have this canvas here that I'm working on, and this is punch needle work I'm doing. Let me just move this to the side. So if you are from Brazil, you know exactly what this is. If not, just some context for you. On the beaches in Rio de Janeiro, we have this pattern here on the cobblestones along the shoreline, but it's black and white. And now I'm trying to make this pattern here, but using the main colors of the Brazilian flag with green and yellow. I don't have much more to go, so it's finished. So maybe within the next few videos you will see this one already hanging on the wall. And over there I have some more yarn in all different types of colors, some unfinished projects that's just been waiting for the time I can finish them, want to finish them. So let's get back to that on another day. Put this one back here. Yeah, and then I also kept this little shelf here that used to stand where the new metal shelves are. If you remember maybe from the start of the video, this is where I actually kept the sewing machines before, but now I'm just using it a little bit like decoration. So I have some books there, I have some scrapbooks down here, some things I've been working on that we can see in more details in a little bit. Then I have some lettering books. I really love lettering and calligraphy and all that, so that's also there. And then I have some more boxes here with things related to the scrapbooking. So you can see here, this one is where I keep all my stamps. You can see I have some alphabet stamps, some icons, different types of stamps. Then here I have some camera, or not camera, but I have this Instax printer that I can use to print some Polaroid shots, but directly from my phone instead of through the Instax camera. That's really useful. Some extra prints that don't quite know what to do with yet, but here you can see the quality of the Instax pictures printed from the phone. Really, really nice. So overall, I'm very happy with the results of the two shelves over there. I think it solved the main problem I had, which was to bring all the materials and machines that were spread around the house. So we have the 3D printer there instead of in the office downstairs. All the scrapbooking materials I had, they were also downstairs before, and that's not very optimal when I'm trying to create a space where I can do these creative projects all in the same space. So having them downstairs was just not very optimal. The table over here, you can see it's pretty tight with the cabinet over here, but usually when I'm working, I just pull it from this little space over there, push it a little bit more towards the window, and I can still enjoy looking outside from here. And when I'm done doing whatever project I want, I can just push it back in there and yeah, have the place a little bit organized again. And then again, if anything, if it's too messy, whatever I'm doing, a sewing project or maybe some lino printing that I'm not done with, but I'm done for the day, just not completely done with the project, I can always close the curtain and tada, It's gone, nobody sees the mess, looks perfectly organized, and yeah, ready for me to continue the next day. But honestly, so far, I've kept the space mostly open, so the curtain has not been that used so far, but it's still a very good option to have, I would say. So, before we see each other again, I just want you to remember that Studio Manu exists because I believe creativity is not about the output. It's not necessarily about what exactly you're doing. It's all about presence. It's about disconnecting from the endless scrolling and reconnecting with yourself through making. So you are allowed to try many things. You saw me. I have a million different hobbies. So you are allowed to do all the different creative things you want to do. You are allowed to start new things. You are allowed to quit. You are allowed to come back to some old hobbies. You are allowed to change your mind. The goal is not perfection, not at all. The goal is to feel alive through making. So I hope to see you next time. And if this message resonates with you, that's because Studio Manu was created exactly for you. So I'll see you next time. Bye.